The totality of environmental stressors a person encounters over their lifetime is the urban skin exposome. It dictates how human tissue behaves, degrades, and ages. The ecobiological framework treats the skin as a living ecosystem that adapts to its immediate surroundings. Nous Group has built a €904 million enterprise on this principle, applying it across clinical and consumer brands like Bioderma, Institute Estederm, and ATAP Pure. There is an operational blind spot at the point of care. While these formulations are designed for environmental interaction, the environment itself is unmeasured. The exact daily exposure remains an invisible variable to both dermatologists and patients. Integrating a real-time, street-level environmental API provides the missing digital infrastructure. This data transforms the product portfolio into a predictive health platform. Daily barrier health is dictated by measurable variables.
Particulate matter like PM2.5, nitrogen dioxide, ozone, UV radiation, and urban heat islands exert distinct oxidative pressures. Sparrow Analytics captures these precise metrics. They map and aggregate these exposures continuously at the street level where patients live. Their collection methodology is institutionally validated. Sparrow partners with organizations like the UN Environment Program to ensure global scientific rigor. The sensor hardware is backed by advanced academic institutions, including the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology, ensuring metrology-grade accuracy for clinical use. Sparrow packages these measurements into an API-first architecture, allowing the data to plug into existing consumer healthcare applications and diagnostic tools. Deploying precision medicine requires replacing retrospective estimates with live, measured ground truth data. Medical literature establishes the direct link between localized air pollution and the exacerbation of inflammatory skin conditions. This clinical data matrix plots the relationship between specific triggers and condition risks. Elevated PM2.5 exposure increases the risk of an eczema flare by up to 89%. The data also isolates the mechanism behind inflammaging. Chronic exposure to this pollution layer induces continuous, low-grade inflammation, which accelerates the skin's biological aging process. When particulate matter co-occurs with high UV radiation, the synergistic effect drives melanogenesis and persistent hyperpigmentation. These physiological events are highly dynamic. However, the industry-standard approach to treating them relies on static, unchanging daily routines. A physician typically prescribes a barrier cream to be used twice daily, regardless of whether the patient's local PM2.5 concentration is 10 micrograms per cubic meter or spiking to 40. The treatment ignores the active threat level. Intercepting cellular damage requires continuous, hyperlocal data thresholds that trigger an intervention before a physical flare occurs. Actionable insights at the individual patient level can only be extracted by discarding outdated data collection models. Legacy environmental data relies on sparse networks of stationary testing sites. These fixed stations cast wide, inaccurate radius projections that fail to capture street-by-street reality. Sparrow Analytics replaces these estimations with dynamic mobile sensing networks. They mount Swiss-made sensor nodes onto municipal fleet vehicles. As postal trucks and buses drive their natural daily routes, they continuously log atmospheric data. This fleet deployment records exact measurements in the specific microclimates where patients commute, work, and sleep. Utilizing existing vehicle fleets ensures high-density citywide coverage without the capital expenditure and delay of building new static sensor towers. Shifting the hardware layer from sparse satellites to mobile fleets generates the granular ground truth density required to execute personalized medicine. This raw data feeds into a centralized enterprise architecture. A single API contract serves 3 distinct commercial implementations across the brand portfolio. This flowchart maps the data routing. The central Sparrow API feed cascades into 3 specific verticals: Bioderma for clinical care, Institute Estederm for professional diagnostics, and ATAP Pure for direct-to-consumer delivery. Bioderma integrates this intelligence directly into its clinical diagnostic tools. In a clinical setting, a physician managing an atopic patient in Zurich can cross-reference the patient's home address with Sparrow's localized air quality feed. The system operates on automated clinical triggers. If local PM2.5 levels exceed 25 micrograms per cubic meter for 3 consecutive days,
the system pushes a direct alert to the physician to recommend an increase in prophylactic barrier care. This workflow allows the dermatologist to proactively prevent an eczema flare based on measured microclimate risks. The second pillar focuses on professional diagnostics through Institute Estederm. In high-pollution luxury markets like Hong Kong, estheticians utilize the data to generate precise environmental skin coach profiles for their clients. By synthesizing local humidity, temperature, and particulate matter into a unified cellular stress score, the professional prescribes data-validated chemical interventions during the treatment. The data also routes to the third pillar, the direct-to-consumer personalization model through Atot Pure. Atot Pure uses a smart active subscription. The patient's base moisturizer remains constant, while the system algorithmically swaps the active ingredient drops based on local environment readings. During a cold weather inversion, the algorithm detects sustained high particulate matter and automatically routes vitamin E and niacinamide into the subscriber's monthly fulfillment. If the air clears but the API detects a spike in localized UV radiation, the system registers the change and swaps the active ingredient to vitamin C to optimize photoprotection. This environment-responsive engine replaces subjective user questionnaires with automated predictive data execution. This shared data infrastructure provides a holistic strategic advantage. The entire portfolio runs on a single, centralized intelligence layer. As these brands deploy targeted treatments, product usage and patient outcomes are routed back into Neos research and development. Matching real-world exposures against specific clinical interventions allows the group to generate publication-grade evidence proving that environment-responsive efficacy outperforms static regimens. Neos is currently the only global skincare group with an integrated street-level environmental measurement layer. This continuous capability contrasts with competitors who rely on generic anti-pollution claims or discontinued single-use hardware patches. Capturing this proprietary longitudinal data validates ecobiology as a defensible scientific framework. The system scales as the sensor fleet expands. Every new global city covered by Sparrow becomes a data-enabled market for the entire portfolio. These aggregated datasets allow for the creation of an environmental skin health index, a public health asset, and a dominant marketing tool. This architecture positions Neos at the intersection of health tech, data science, and advanced biological formulation. Advancing the clinical beauty sector today requires transitioning from purely static chemical compounds to a dynamic, responsive care model. Success in this sector depends on architecting the intelligence layer required to deploy active ingredients at the precise environmental moment the skin needs them.